Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. Just as a friendly reminder, everyone is muted on entry, and we ask that you keep your microphone on mute during the presentation. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and we'll try to respond with an answer or follow up afterwards during the general Q&A session. Today we'll be discussing Agile Integration. We'll be taking a journey and we'll go over what it means, the current landscape of integration methods, the risks and challenges presented, and how we can solve them with a complementary set of technological solutions from Red Hat, with their 3-skill API management suite and Fuse on OpenShift offerings. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to briefly introduce our speakers and parties involved today. I'm Ken Manny, and I'm the lead solution architect from Fierce Software. Today I have the great pleasure of having Manny Evangelista joining me as well. Manny is a partner solution architect overseeing the middleware portfolio at Red Hat. And we all know who Red Hat is, of course, so now I'd love to take a moment to tell you a little bit about Fierce Software. Fierce Software is the premier public sector specialized partner, and we believe in delivering true value instead of simply moving paper around. We specialize in enterprise open source solutions and target a few verticals, namely secure platforms, DevOps, and data analytics. Our lineup is very intentional and made to represent our story, one of which tells of our intent and purpose and the effort we like to put into our solutions and making sure they deliver actual value. Now, as we begin, I believe we should first establish why this concept of agile integration is important. Today, business success is more and more based on your ability to react to changes and deliver disruptive services. IT is becoming the key element that is driving and enabling this. You've probably heard that every modern company is a software company, and this is true. Look at Tesla and how they can stay ahead of their competition by providing over-the-air updates to their vehicles. Airbnb has no real estate to itself. It simply connects systems and people to provide a service. And of course, there's the classic example of Uber, Lyft, and other ride-sharing services that have disrupted transportation as we know it. Our expectations are set by these commercial entities, and that translates into what the constituents in the public expect of an application experience. Now, business is realizing more and more ability to deliver value via their B2B and B2C transactions. How is this? For example, let's take the USPS, the United States Postal Service. Conceptualize all of their physical post offices and all their walk-in business and all the businesses that get daily pickups, so on and so forth. Their physical infrastructure, right? You might be surprised to know that most of the business transactions the United States Postal Service processes are actually via their B2B and B2C services, such as their shipping APIs. With that in mind, now conceptualize the number of calls eBay and Amazon alone make to those APIs. Compare that business with even best case numbers for physical walk-in business. DevOps is enabling organizations to deliver new capabilities in a more streamlined way. The key force in this movement is the culture shift, where communication and integration between developers and operators increase, and barriers between the two are removed in a symbiotic way driven by positive feedback. This, of course, has delivered greater agility to the organization as a whole. And as the organization is becoming more agile, there are more and more applications released at a faster cadence. This is wonderful, but presents issues that can rise in other parts of our business that can cause bottlenecks. And through all this, as IT delivers more value, is moved from a cost center to a key revenue-generating element of the business. It has only become more deeply entrenched with the core and vital operations of the business as a whole. While this is great, it also presents the issue of increased IT complexity that is not likely to become less so. Now, with digital transformation, DevOps, and accelerating IT requirements, there's need to integrate and extend systems in a more agile way, or you risk falling into antiquity. Integration is one of the most important competencies a business can have now, and it needs to be driven in an agile manner. Older methods of service-oriented architectures and monolithic enterprise service buses won't scale to meet modern demands in today's hybrid environments. Now, with any modernization play, there are risks involved. Instead of focusing on the risks, let's take a look at the current landscape of integration solutions and a brief look into its history. Traditional integration methods, such as an enterprise service bus architecture, hinge on a centralized hub to perform the business's integration needs. While this might have been an easy way to start integrating systems and services, it quickly becomes a lumbering monolithic platform. It's heavy, you can't easily move it. The slightest change or motion can have catastrophic effects on a larger ecosystem. On top of that, it doesn't scale well. It becomes a bottleneck in and of itself, both of which are forces that stifle agility. This is not to mention the fearful thought looming over everyone's head. That thought of this large, complicated system that's deeply entrenched in their business, eventually failing and causing damage to the business as a whole. Outside of that, traditional integration methods traditionally mean there's an integration team that owns the business's integration platforms. This can present an issue as far as the organizational structuring of your business, having to rely on a small group of individuals for key parts of your business. The members of this integration team are absolutely crucial. They have some vital information regarding many different technologies on a deep level and how they interact with each other to provide business and operational value. To add extra on top of the informational silo issue, the single team usually becomes a bottleneck as the rest of the organization adopts automation and more agile practices. They quickly start accruing backlogs of work and integration requests start stacking up. By the time some of them are met, the requirements have either changed or passed entirely. Let's not forget the human element. Just how would you feel trying to update and administer this integration stack? Not that great, right? Lots of pressure, never-ending work logs and tickets, feeling like you're holding up the rest of the business, yet you also feel like you're getting nowhere at all. So let's try to avoid that feeling for us and the members of our esteemed enterprises. What do we need to do to adopt more agile practices? What's the solution to the rising integration complexity issues? It's a changing of multiple paradigms and a large coordinated effort. We're building on many advancing technologies and best practices, such as containers and DevOps with CI/CD. Embracing the hybrid cloud, we're using microservices to build resilient and self-healing service offerings, and thinking API first in our move towards taking our piece of the API economy. Why APIs? Because APIs are much easier to control, manage, monetize, and extend. Microservices allow us to build specific solutions for specific problems. Enabling a culture of DevOps with your integration team allows you to gain the same agility the rest of your developmental teams are enjoying. Container technology allows you to package and reuse these microservices easily and deploy them almost anywhere. And if you're not preparing for a hybrid cloud, then all of these efforts won't have the distribution and platforms required to execute upon your business objectives. There are few vendors with the ability to meet these challenges and provide a complete solution. With Red Hat's OpenShift container platform, you can build new container-native services and scale to meet any demand on the rock-solid enterprise Kubernetes platform. And as I'm sure we all know, you can deploy applications with OpenShift on-premise in a public or private cloud, and it can be consumed as a SaaS offering as well. Moving forward today, we'll be primarily talking about Red Hat Fuse 7 and Red Hat's 3-scale API management suite. Red Hat Fuse being the enterprise distributed integration platform. With Fuse 7 on OpenShift, you can build your next generation of integrated solutions and have it distribute and scale with the needs of your business. Now, once you have these services and APIs built with Red Hat Fuse on OpenShift, you need some way to manage and control these new endpoints and integrations. This is where 3-scale API management steps in. Let's take a closer look at Red Hat Fuse 7 and how this integration platform is enabling agility in the enterprise today. Let's set the table by asking why, how, and what value does Red Hat Fuse bring? These figures are based off a recent white paper published by IDC, the business value of Red Hat integration products. 6 organizations discussed the benefits and value they found in using Red Hat Fuse for rapid app integration. Now, by integrating with Red Hat Fuse, these organizations achieved an average 3-year ROI of 520%, a payback time of only 6 months, and during their use, they had 5.5 more applications integrated per year, and of those applications, they performed generally 31% better as well. You might wonder how Red Hat Fuse delivers such value. Like many of Red Hat's products, the technologies are built on open source solutions, and Fuse is no exception. Red Hat Fuse is a collection of different software components pieced together in an enterprise-ready package. Through the whole life cycle, you can carry development in the JBoss Developer Studio and manage the entire stack with the included management and monitoring tools. Of course, the operating system you place your applications on is of the utmost importance, as is the container platform you choose to use with Fuse. Apache ActiveMQ ensures messaging transactions are properly distributed through the stack. CXF extends open web standards. However, the most important part of this stack is Apache Camel. By taking advantage of Apache Camel in the Red Hat Fuse stack, you can leverage hundreds of components for quick and easy integration of your systems. Using Apache Camel and Red Hat Fuse, you can utilize some of the best EIPs when implementing your distributed messaging and integrated systems. No one likes reinventing the wheel, and thankfully you can easily build on top of many components or connectors that come provided with Red Hat Fuse. These can be things such as Git, FTP, authorization, mainframe data access, so on, all turnkey, easy to use out of the box. Of course, this also means that there are plenty of ways to marshal and transform your data, and to do so with the included visual frameworks using your favorite domain-specific language, or DSL. Combined with Apache CXF, continue to extend your messaging platforms and integrated systems via RESTful APIs to instantly deliver entry into the API economy. Now, even with the most versatile integration platform, you need to be able to deploy and run integrated applications in any environment. Thankfully, you can with Red Hat Fuse. No matter where you are along your integration journey, Fuse offers flexibility and choice. Fuse Standalone is going to be for those organizations that are starting their integration journey, but want a technology that is portable and can transition easily as they grow and increase demand. Most businesses find the best value right here in the middle with Fuse on OpenShift. Fuse on OpenShift, you can scale out to meet demand, offer instant flexibility to your developers, and deploy your integrated services as containers on the industry-leading Kubernetes container platform. This is where Agile Integration lives. This is where it sees the most value offered. This is where it thrives. And for those enterprises that don't have the means or resources to administer the underlying platform, there's Fuse Online, which is an integration platform as a service offering. So what we have here is a quick look into Fuse 7 Standalone, with the core components of Fuse on top of your favorite Java Virtual Machine, or JVM, many of which that are tested and supported by Red Hat. Some changes in Fuse 7 are the introduction of Craft 4 containers. Camel has been updated to 2.2.0. You might notice a few new names and a couple missing. That's because Narayana has replaced Geronimos, a transaction manager, and for web servlets, Undertow has replaced Jetty. When running Fuse on OpenShift, you gain the scalability benefit of OpenShift, of course, but on top of the same core Fuse stack, you also get additional tools for provisioning, administering, and monitoring your integration platform and applications. Now that we understand some of the moving forces behind Agile integration and the key technologies that can enable that, let's see what it looks like after adoption. So now we've adopted more Agile integration practices, gained flexibility from technological solutions, and our integration platform is now looking less like a monolith and more like an extendable and scalable API platform. What's more, our developers are able to build the integrations they need at their own pace, and the reuse of components is making it even easier to build the services that business requires. You may say, that's a lot of flexibility and a lot more development. How do you manage all of that? This is an important consideration to make, or else you'll end up with an integration environment that's sprawled out of control. It's because we lack general visibility, and so we need a way to regain control and set up access policies, track analytic usage, and even offer a way for monetization or chargebacks based on usage. Our business is sitting on a gold mine of extendable services and APIs. How do we capitalize on that ever-growing collection of apps and integrations? Moving forward in our journey, we'll discuss how we can use these new APIs our business is developing and how to capitalize on their latent value with Red Hat's 3-scale API management platform. As a high-level view, this is what API management entails. On the right, you have your API provider, or otherwise maybe your newly developed API in this case. It's being brokered and proxied through an API gateway. The use of this API gateway allows you to extend access control, set policies, and gather analytics while offering a way to monetize calls to your API. On the left, you have an API consumer, a user or maybe another business that is using your newly developed API. The consumer makes a request to the API gateway, which proxies the requests to the provider while at the same time extending the management functions included in the stack. And you know what? What would be really great is if I could easily engage developers in order to broaden my exposure and increase engagement. All these capabilities and more are made available to you in your APIs via 3-scale API management by Red Hat. Focus more on developing the disruptive applications and crucial services that drive your business. With 3-scale API management, you can take your production-ready APIs and quickly gain the ability to control who uses it, how often, and for how much, while making consumption a self-service model to drive engagement and use. Not only can you control the edge of your API and its consumption, you can also gain visibility into usage, traffic metrics, and showback reporting. And of course, you can rely on the industry-leading support offered by Red Hat. Just like many of Red Hat's other offerings, 3-scale can go anywhere your applications live and work. Between the hosted on-premise deployment option, or SaaS offerings, or something in between, flexibility and security are built in. Let's quickly discuss the control you gain from using 3-scale. If you're opening an API, you don't want things to quickly devolve into the Wild West of sorts. With 3-scale, you can easily set access parameters and set limits upon those consumers. Not only can you set authentication, but you can set authorization as well, stating how consumers can interact and authenticate with your API. And of course, you can also broker other types of identity management platforms such as API public keys, OAuth, Enterprise LDAP, and Active Directory to build upon your existing access and identity infrastructure. Extending upon the control and security, you can also set rate limits based on plans. What this means is that you can create a plan or a contract that allows a specific sort of consumer a specific set of allowances and restrictions. For instance, you may have a plan for your external developers, where their API calls are free, but they can only access your API at a slower rate without full access to all of your data. Then you can have another plan where your allied partners can call onto your calendar and address book APIs, but maybe not your order processing endpoints. Your partners could be set a flat rate per call and even capped after a certain point. For instance, not to exceed 1,000 calls per minute, maybe to prevent rogue data exfiltration by an unknown third party. 3Scale also provides a rich analytics engine that gives the necessary intelligence about the performance of your API and traffic patterns. Customers can choose how fine-grained this should be and get visibility into who is accessing which API endpoint and when. The data can be viewed on screen or extracted to a CSV, or you can even use the 3Scale REST API for analytics to retrieve the data in JSON format. That way you can include it, integrate it into maybe another higher level reporting tool or larger BI tool that you already have as well. With a robust reporting tool, 3Scale can help API providers determine which APIs and endpoints are more popular and which ones aren't. One of our druthers during the scoping of an API management platform was there to be a simple way to monetize upon the use of our APIs being managed. Your scarce developmental resources need to be focused on what they do best, developing services to drive business. No one has time to develop an API e-commerce platform, and the thought of having to extend that payment system to operations and accounts receivable and accounts payable is frightening. With 3Scale, monetization and payment processing is a turnkey process. Use many of the leading payment processors out there, some of which you may already be using. There's no coding needed, nothing to be changed on the back end with your integrations. It takes but a few minutes to enable payment processing for your API. Now, when considering the public sector, many users may not want to provision charge per call rates and plans. However, let us not forget that 3Scale has a rich analytics engine to explore use and demand. Using these analytic and reporting tools in 3Scale, we can deliver a way to perform department-based resource allocation or chargebacks and showbacks for proper budgeting reasons. Many of Red Hat's products can be deployed in many different ways, and 3Scale is no exception. Most customers find a lot of value in the fully hosted API gateway model. Red Hat manages the complete API management stack, brokering and proxying requests between your consumers and your API backend securely. Others may find use with hosting an API gateway internally themselves. Bring your own authorization, sync the configuration, and start relaying a request through a self-managed API gateway while still getting the benefits of 3Scale's suite. Customers can also deploy the full 3Scale management solution on-premise in their own data center or onto their managed cloud environment. When deploying on-premise, the solution is deployed on Red Hat's OpenShift container platform. Now we've taken the high-level overview of what Agile Integration and API management mean. Let's jump into a quick demonstration to show you firsthand how easy it can be to deploy your next-generation APIs and services. For the purpose of this demonstration, what we'll be doing is deploying a customer service API. This API will allow us to query information about customers and their orders. To do this, we'll be taking our source that lives in a Git repository and deploying it in a container on Red Hat's OpenShift container platform. That will then create the RESTful API that we will use to query this information. And then we'll secure it and gain some analytics and additional management functions by wrapping that with 3Scale. So to start, what we'll do is create a new project. I'll title this my new CS project because, again, this is a customer service API. And we'll give this a quick description and API query our CS backend. Wonderful. It's quickly created. We can jump into this newly created project, browse the catalog. The item we're looking for is down here. It's called S2I Craft2 CXF REST. What that means is this is a source to image container that we're wrapping in a Craft2 container, and we're utilizing Apache CXF to deploy a RESTful API. I'm going to set a few configuration options. CS suffix for the application and service names. You can see the Git repository URL, which we're pulling the source code in from. A few other arguments that you can set. The defaults are fine for us. We're going to skip bindings and let this build. As we click into overview for this project, you can see this being built. It will take a few moments for our purposes. We've already built and deployed this project. You can see some information here about the deployed pod. What we're looking for, though, is this route. This route is where our API currently lives. We're getting an error of 404, but that means that it's actually being resolved by the web servlet, which is wonderful. What we want to do is find an example endpoint. So this will return some information about the customer with the ID 123, whose name is evidently John. So very simple demonstration, but could be very powerful in extending some customer service information to your allied partners. Now you might notice that we can access this unauthenticated. We don't really have any visibility over who's accessing it and when, what information is being queried, and so on. Let's jump into 3-scale and quickly show you how easily you can add all those management functions. This is the view you have whenever you log into 3-scale. This is your dashboard, some information regarding your API and applications. As we will click through some of these tabs at the top, we'll jump into developers. You'll see a listing of your developer accounts if you have some enabled. We do have one who is named John Doe. He has been approved. We also have some private messaging and form functions for you to communicate with your developers as well. Here you have a high-level overview of the applications that you have deployed with 3-scale. This is a very simple developer's application. The service that we have deployed is this Agile Customer Service Demo API. You can see some credentials that we have set, some limits that we have on specific plans that we are using. As we click into here, we'll jump into the API tab, and you'll see again some basic information, but a little bit more drilled down into this specific API. Let's step through some of these additional configuration options. Here you have its definition, some very basic naming conventions. Here we have methods. Methods we are using to track specific usage calls for. We're tracking who's getting customer information, who's getting order information, who's getting product information from specific orders. For right now, we're just monitoring the hits to these specific methods, and we're going to map them later on. If you wanted to manage your own API gateway, this is where you would set that configuration, or if you have any additional authentication means, maybe you're already using OAuth, you can also set that here. The API cast configuration is where a lot of the core parts of your integration with 3-scale are going to be set. Here you can see the base URL, or the FQDN from earlier that we deployed. You can also set the port if you like. The API gateway that 3-scale has deployed for us, the staging and production URLs. We have taken some of those methods and metrics that we have created earlier, and we're mapping them to specific RESTful verbs, such as get, put, and post. Again, right now we're just tracking who is accessing the get customer, get order details, and get product information from order endpoints. We have some very basic authentication means because, again, this is a development and deployment. And at the bottom, you can see a very simple test query. We're going to grab this URL. You can use curl, of course, but we're actually just going to drop this right in to our URL bar. You might notice we're gathering the same information as we have before. This is going to be querying the same route, so you don't have to change anything about how your clients are accessing the data. But what we're doing is wrapping SSL, and we're also adding some authentication means. If we don't have this user key, you'll notice that we have an authentication error. So with 3Scale, we've just instantly gained some security and some authentication means. Wonderful. Something else to make mention of are application plans. As we mentioned earlier, you can set plans maybe for your developers, maybe some additional plans for your partners. Here we can jump into maybe our limited plan and see how we have limited this specific plan. Over a single hour, you can only hit the API as a total 100 times. Those 100 hits can be over the customer name endpoints, the order information or product information endpoints as well. We can set them over specific values if we want to decrease or increase their allotments otherwise. If you offer support, some additional features, you can also set that here for this plan. In settings, you have some very basic settings as far as how sign up and uses are set. Alerts can be set upon thresholds. Next, what I'd like to do is jump into our developer portal. This is what it looks like from the administration level. Let's see what it looks like from the actual developer side. Your developers would join into this portal by accessing this URL, and we can actually find the access key that we need by jumping into our settings. You can disable the requirement for this access code, but it adds an additional layer of verification. Now that we have been authenticated with this access code as a developer, we can find our documentation and the plans available. We have 2 plans listed here that have been made public, the basic unlimited plan and the more limited one. You can see some additional documentation for some example requests and calls that you can make to test. And otherwise, jumping into our documentation, if we had our documentation listed through here, you'd see that. Now, as you have users making calls to your API, you can see their usage and gain some additional information from the analytics provided by 3Scale. You can see the methods that we have listed and tracked earlier. So far, we're getting a lot of customer information, but no order information. You can see the occurrences of those. You can check what days are most popular, the hourly breakdowns of this as well, and some additional analytic reporting options are available. Now that we've gone through deploying an integrated application on OpenShift and integrating it with 3Scale API management, let's recap everything we've gone over. To recap, here's a high-level overview of what the effective Agile integration practices can deliver in combination with an API management suite. On the left, you have your consumers and users making requests to the API gateway, which handles access, control, management, monetization, and more. Unknown to the clients, the API management platform is relaying requests to your APIs, the APIs that are now living in containers. Because they've been containerized, they can be reused, reintegrated, and redeployed anywhere. Integration is difficult. Doing it in an efficient, agile way is even more so. Thankfully, I can earnestly say that it doesn't have to be as difficult as it has been in the past. The industry-leading solutions and tools provided by the Red Hat middleware portfolio allow you to quickly develop and integrate your enterprise systems, building on a foundation of tried, tested, and trusted components, platforms, and services. Even if you have custom, pre-built, or maybe third-party APIs, 3Scale by Red Hat is API agnostic, meaning you can manage any API anywhere, no matter how it was made or how it operates. Gain valuable insight with 3Scale's built-in analytics engine, engage developers and consumers with built-in documentation and a specialized developer portal, and even monetize the use of your newly developed API. This is wonderful. We're excited. Your organization is ready to move forward in their digital transformation to meet their integration needs. Where do you start? You can first start by contacting your Fierce Software account executive. And if you don't have an active AE, contact us directly, and we'll be more than happy to get you set up. We can cater to custom and specifically targeted workshops, and we're one of the few Red Hat partners that can deploy these workshops almost anywhere in the world. Of course, we can spin up demonstrations and proof of concepts and have extensive engineering and management resources in case professional services are required. I'd like to take this moment to thank everyone for joining us for this presentation. At this point, we'd like to open it up to guest input. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, qualms, queries, or conundrums, please just raise your hand in the WebEx chat, type in your response into the chat box, relay it to us in some manner, and we'll be more than happy to answer it. Otherwise, thank you all again for joining us today.